This conversation is powered by Google Illuminate. Check out illuminate.google.com for more. Today's discussion delves into a fascinating paper, Simulation and Assimilation of the Digital Human Brain. We're talking about creating a digital twin of the human brain, a monumental task with potentially groundbreaking implications.
Indeed. The sheer scale of the human brain, with its 86 billion neurons and trillions of synapses, presents an unprecedented computational challenge.
Exactly. The paper describes a platform called the digital brain, or DB, capable of simulating this complexity. How realistic is this simulation, though?
Remarkably realistic in certain aspects. The DB can reproduce resting state brain activity with high correlation to fMRI data.
That's impressive. But can it go beyond just resting state activity? Can it simulate cognitive tasks? Let's start with the digital brain platform itself. The paper mentions an architecture using 14,012 GPUs. What's the rationale behind such a massive computational setup?
The scale is necessary to handle the sheer number of neurons and synapses. A brute force approach on standard hardware would be hopelessly inefficient. The parallel processing power of GPUs is crucial for achieving even a fraction of real-time simulation.
And how do you manage the communication between these many GPUs? That must be a significant bottleneck.
Absolutely. They've implemented a two-level routing scheme to optimize spike transmission between GPUs, significantly reducing communication overhead. This is a key innovation that allows for the simulation to run at a reasonable speed.
The DB model is built using personalized MRI data. Can you elaborate on how this data is translated into a neuronal network architecture?
The process involves several steps. First, neuron density in each voxel is determined by the gray matter volume from T1 weighted MRI. Then, structural connectivity between voxels is estimated using diffusion weighted imaging, DWI. This provides a probabilistic connection network.
So you're essentially using the brain's own structure as a blueprint for the simulation?
Precisely. We leverage multimodal MRI data, including DWI and T1 weighted MRI, along with microcolumn connection maps, to create a highly heterogeneous and biologically realistic network.
The paper emphasizes the use of a hierarchical mesoscale data assimilation, HMDA algorithm. What role does this algorithm play?
HMDA is crucial for fitting the model to experimental data. It's a Bayesian inference framework that allows us to estimate the hyperparameters governing the system using limited fMRI data. This is essential because directly fitting trillions of parameters would be impossible.
So you're not just building a model, you're also using data to refine and validate it?
Exactly. The HMDA algorithm allows us to iteratively adjust the model parameters to match the observed fMRI bold signals, both in resting state and during cognitive tasks.
The paper reports real-time factors ranging from 65 to 118.8, depending on the average neuronal firing rate. How does this compare to other large-scale brain simulations?
This performance significantly surpasses existing large-scale brain simulations. The combination of the optimized architecture and the efficient communication scheme is key to this achievement.
And how do you validate the accuracy of the simulation? It's difficult to verify a model of this complexity.
We use several validation methods. One involves inserting a small, independent neuronal graph into the larger network and comparing its simulated activity to a CPU-based simulation of the same graph. We also assess the numerical precision of the simulation methods.
The DB successfully reproduced resting state bold signals with a high correlation coefficient of 0.93. What does this tell us?
This demonstrates the model's ability to capture the spontaneous activity patterns of the brain at rest. It suggests that the underlying network structure and dynamics are reasonably well represented.
And what about the spontaneous activity patterns themselves? Did the simulation reveal anything interesting?
Yes, the simulation reproduced oscillatory states in certain subcortical regions, particularly in beta frequency bands. This aligns with known neurophysiological findings.
The paper also describes a visual evaluation task. How is this implemented in the DB?
The task involved a subject evaluating the pleasantness of visual stimuli. The bold signals from the primary visual cortex during the task were used to estimate input currents, which were then injected into the DB.
So you're essentially using the experimental data to drive the simulation of a cognitive task?
Yes. The assimilated hyperparameters from the primary visual cortex served as injection currents driving the network's response. The DB's simulated bold signals were then compared to the experimental data.
And what were the results of this comparison? Did the DB accurately predict the subject's responses?
The correlation between the simulated and experimental bold signals was high in the primary visual cortex, and the DB's predicted scores for the visual task showed a significant correlation with the actual scores.
Despite the impressive results, the paper acknowledges several limitations. What are some of the most significant ones?
One limitation is the limited availability of biological data to fully constrain the network architecture. The DWI data used is directionless, while brain connections are directed. Another limitation is the computational cost, which prevents simulating the brain at its full biological scale and precision.
So there's still a gap between the simulated brain and the real thing?
Yes, the average synaptic degree in the simulation is much lower than the actual value in the human brain. Also, many details of synaptic densities, microarchitectures, and neurobiological details have been simplified for computational reasons.
What are some of the key areas for future development and improvement of the DB?
One important area is improving the model's biological realism. This includes incorporating more detailed models of synaptic dynamics, including synaptic delays and diverse receptor types. Another area is enhancing the data assimilation methods to better capture the complexity of brain activity.
And what about the computational aspects? The current model requires a significant amount of computing power.
Yes, a hardware implementation tailored to the specific needs of brain simulation would be a major step forward. This could involve specialized neuromorphic hardware or optimized GPU architectures.
Beyond the technical challenges, what are the broader implications of this research? What are some potential applications of the DB?
The DB has the potential to revolutionize neuroscience research, allowing for dry experiments that would be impossible to conduct in vivo. It could also have applications in brain medicine, for example, in developing personalized treatments for neurological disorders.
So it could be used to test hypotheses and develop new therapies without the need for human subjects?
Exactly. It could also contribute to our understanding of artificial general intelligence by providing a more realistic model of the human brain's computational capabilities.
With such powerful technology, it's important to consider the ethical implications. What are some of the potential concerns?
One concern is the potential for misuse of the technology. It's crucial to ensure that the DB is used responsibly and ethically with appropriate safeguards in place. Another concern is the potential for bias in the model, reflecting biases present in the data used to train it.
So, careful consideration of bias and fairness is essential?
Absolutely. Transparency and accountability are paramount in the development and application of this technology.
The paper is authored by a large consortium, the DTB consortium. What is the significance of this collaborative effort?
The collaborative nature of the project highlights the scale and complexity of the undertaking. It's a testament to the need for interdisciplinary collaboration to tackle such a challenging problem. The open access nature of the data and code also promotes transparency and reproducibility.
The availability of the data and code is a significant contribution to the field. It allows other researchers to build upon this work and further advance the development of digital brain models. That was a great discussion. Thank you for sharing your expertise and insights into this groundbreaking research.